green market trucks or more pedestrian space. What we think would work best is do a little bit of both, give some space for the trucks and give some space for the pedestrians. So it's doing that would allow us to shorten the crosswalks at Broadway and 17th, to simplify the intersection significantly, eliminate that 3-phase traffic signal, make it a standard 2-phase, just like any other intersection in Manhattan. And we'd have space actually to continue the bike lane that's now on Broadway, continue that across 17th into Park. Right now, the bike lane just ends at 17th Street, and people aren't sure if they should go down Union Square West, 17th Street, they don't really know where to go. So defining the route would be part of the project. If you flip one more page, it's labeled Improve Safety. So we talked a lot about Broadway and 17th Street. We'll have fewer vehicle lanes there. It'll be less confusing. And now Union Square West and 14th Street, University Place, kind of, just near Whole Foods there. You can picture that. Union Square West is going downtown and University is going uptown. So they converge at 14th. It's a very confusing traffic pattern. And what happens is all the traffic on University, all the traffic on Union Square West has to turn onto 14th Street. There's very heavy pedestrian traffic there. It's very difficult to maneuver. So what we're proposing is actually for the vehicles that are going south on Union Square West, they would have to make a right turn onto 14th Street. Right now they have the option of going right or left. When they go left, they're conflicting with University Place traffic, they're conflicting with the pedestrians. It's just a little too much going on. So we want to limit the choices to simplify it. The other option that we've been talking about is actually having Union Square West, the north block and the south block be closed at certain times of the day, and that's something we need to hear everyone's feedback on, whether you think that's a good idea, bad idea. There's certain times you think make sense, there are other times that don't make sense. We'd like to hear it, but at the minimum, we'd like to force the traffic to turn right onto 14th Street. That will simplify that intersection. We think it'll go a long way towards improving safety by just reducing the number of conflicts there. If you look at the table on the upper right-hand corner, this is a summary of the crashes that we've seen from 2004 to 2008 at the various intersections, Broadway 17th, Union Square 14th, and then Union Square West 14th, and Park and 17th. So you can see there's quite a number of injuries happening at these locations, and that's really what drew us here in the first place. That's what a number of people from the community have called our attention to these intersections because of these numbers. So you can see, there are several injuries over that period at each of these locations. Flipping the page to, it says 23rd to 18th Street improvements. This is the Broadway corridor itself, on Broadway between Madison Square and Union Square. It's a 2-lane street right now, and there's a photo on the left-hand side. That's what it looks like today. It's 2 lanes and a bike lane. What happened to this street is a lot of the traffic just sort of disappeared over the last year because we've altered Broadway north of here, uptown, at Herald Square and at Times Square and also at Madison Square. So now it's not really a through route anymore. There's a lot of traffic that used to be on Broadway that has now filtered onto other avenues. So what we're proposing here is actually to do a similar treatment to what we did north of Madison Square, if anyone is familiar with that, between Herald Square and Madison Square on Broadway. There's a photo of it in the center of the page where we have a bike lane, floating parking area, what we call a floating parking area, pedestrian islands to make crossing the street easier, and one single moving lane of traffic rather than 2 lanes. And that will match up sort of with the current usage of Broadway. Right now there's less than 1 lane worth of traffic on this part of Broadway, but we still have the 2 lanes. There are express buses that use this section of Broadway sort of as a cut through. There aren't any stops. Those would be rerouted so that you wouldn't have the bus traffic there any longer. If you flip the page as a cross-section of Broadway today on the top, you see the 2 traffic lanes in the center, the car and the truck, 2 parking lanes, 1 on each side, and the bike lane. That's what's there now. And then on the bottom of the page, we'll still have 2 parking lanes, 1 traffic lane instead of 2, and the bike lane would be behind the parking, which is, we find it's a very comfortable bike lane. A lot of tourists and other people from out of town, as well as local people who are not comfortable in standard bike lanes, tend to feel much more comfortable in the bike lane when it's protected behind the parking. So this is, it's a nice thing, and opens it up to a lot more people, not just the brave. If you flip to the last page, one element of the proposal that we didn't talk about yet is at Broadway and 18th Street, any traffic that remains on Broadway would have to turn off onto 18th Street, because 17th Street would no longer carry them through to Park Avenue. So what we saw, we did a similar treatment at Times Square and closed Broadway at 47th Street. And what we found is that we asked everyone to turn onto Central Park South who was going south, and we had huge signs. What we found is people turned almost in equal numbers at every cross street, every eastbound cross street. So that we anticipate a similar kind of dispersion effect here, where you'd see some people on 23rd, some on 22nd, some on 20th, some on 18th, and you're really actually going to see, we believe, most of the diversions happening on 5th Avenue, because that's what will provide all the local access to the businesses and attractions of Union Square. You'll be able to come in from 18th Street to get to Union Square, or from 16th Street. So those are where we expect the traffic diversions to go. Now, there isn't that much traffic left to divert. As I mentioned earlier, the traffic volumes are way down on this section of Broadway, less than what we normally have in one single lane of Manhattan Avenue traffic. So, without further ado, I think we should open it up to questions, because I know you have a busy agenda here today.